There's a word for the feeling of missing someone who is still in the room with you. It exists in Portuguese. Not in English. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If you don't have the word, do you even notice the feeling? For decades, this idea was dismissed as a fun linguistic curiosity. Nothing more. Then researchers started testing it directly, and the results were harder to dismiss. In the 1950s, a linguist named Benjamin Lee Whorf proposed something radical. Language doesn't just describe your world. It quietly decides what you're able to see in it. For years, that claim was mostly a theory. Then came the color experiment. The Himba people of Namibia have a language with far fewer basic color words than English. No separate word for blue. It simply falls under the same word as green. Researchers showed Himba speakers a circle of green squares, with one that was very faintly blue. English speakers spot the odd one almost instantly. Their language has already trained them to look for it. Himba speakers took noticeably longer. Sometimes they couldn't find it at all. But flip the test around, and something strange happens. Show them a circle of greens with one shade of green that looks nearly identical to English eyes. The Himba speakers spotted the difference instantly. Because their language splits that shade into two separate words. English speakers stared at the same grid and saw nothing unusual at all. Same eyes. Same light. Same actual pixels on the screen. The only difference was which distinctions their language had bothered to name. Which means the color you're capable of noticing was decided before you were even born. And color turned out to be the small, easy example. Time is the strange one. In English, you push meetings back and move deadlines forward. Which already tells you something. In your mind, the future sits ahead of you, and the past sits behind. But the Aymara people of the Andes describe time in the exact opposite direction. For them, the past is what you can see. So it sits in front of you. The future is unknown, unseen. So it sits behind, where you can't look. Researchers noticed Aymara speakers actually gesture this way without thinking about it. Ask them about something from years ago, and their hand moves forward, toward what's visible. Ask about next year, and the hand drifts backward, toward what can't be seen. It's not a metaphor they chose. It's a direction their language quietly built into their body. Which means somewhere on this planet, right now, someone is walking backward into their own future. Not confused. Just running a different internal map than you are. So here's where this stops being a fun fact about foreigners. Because English has its own blind spots. You just can't see them, by definition. Take responsibility. In English, we love the passive voice for mistakes. The vase broke. Not, I broke the vase. The sentence quietly erases the person who did it. Researchers actually tested this. Show English speakers a video of someone breaking something on purpose. Then show the same video, but the object breaks by accident. English speakers described both, later, with nearly identical language. Intent barely changed the sentence. Speakers of languages that grammatically require marking intent remembered the difference far more sharply. Which means English speakers, on average, later misremembered who was actually at fault more often. Not because they lied. Because their language never forced them to notice intent in the first place. So the language you grew up speaking already decided which facts felt worth remembering. And it's still doing that right now, in ways you have no way of noticing from the inside. This isn't really about vocabulary. It's about which distinctions your brain was ever trained to bother with. Every language is a filter. Not a lie. Just a set of choices about what counts as worth naming. And whatever your language never bothered to name, you were never trained to look for. Which means somewhere in your own experience, right now, there's a distinction you cannot see. Not because it isn't there. Because no one ever handed you the word for it. This is why some people learn a second language and describe it as waking something up. Not just new words. New filters. New things suddenly worth noticing. Japanese has a word for the light filtering through leaves. English just calls it light through the trees. German has a word for the satisfaction of someone else's misfortune. English needs an entire sentence to say it. Each one of these words isn't just a label. It's a permission slip to notice something you were already feeling. Which means the fastest way to expand what you're capable of noticing has nothing to do with willpower. It has to do with which words you let into your head. So the feeling you couldn't quite name earlier today. It might already have a word somewhere. You just haven't been handed it yet. The world you can perceive is only ever as wide as the words you've collected so far. So go find one more word. It might show you something that was there all along.